Today's video is going to teach us about stories about joining or using addition to solve story problems. By the end of today, you should be able to have 3 different strategies you can use to help you when solving stories about joining. To begin, let's first think about, what are story problems or what are stories about joining? So, what are they? Well, they're real-life situations where you need to use math to solve a problem. So teachers will always tell you you're going to use this in real life, and so story problems are kind of that example and our way of practicing that in the classroom so that you know how to use math and see how you can apply it to real life. So as you're going through these today, we're thinking about things that could really happen in real life and how we can use math to help us solve that problem. So let's look at an example. Here's our first story problem. Mrs. Willoughby is having friends over for a party. 4 friends say they can come. Then she invites 5 more. How many friends will be at her party? So the first thing you need to do is think about, what is the question asking me? And usually what we'll see in first grade is that it's at the end. So this says, how many friends will be at her party? So we have to figure out how many friends are going to be at Mrs. Willoughby's party. In order to do that, there's a couple different strategies you can use. One go-to that I like to do is draw a picture. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like with drawing a picture, or you could use counters in this case as well. So first I need to think about the words in the story problem, and I'm going to look for the numbers. So right here there's 4 friends first, then there's 5. And I have to look for some key words in this to tell me what kind of math to do. Now I see that the word right here is more, and so more tells me that I'm going to be putting the numbers together. I'm joining them. I'm not taking any away, I'm putting more together. And so as I draw my picture, I'm going to start with my 4. Here this highlights our numbers and our key word. So 4 and 5 are our key numbers, and then our key word is the word more that tells us we're putting them together or adding. So if I'm drawing a picture or using counters, I would start with my first number, which is 4. So I have 4 counters or 4 circles. Then the word more tells me that I have to draw more or put more out there. I'm not taking any away, I'm putting some out there. So I need 5 more because that's my second number. So I would put 5 more out there or draw 5 more. Then I can see that all together I have 9. I like to draw my picture with my circles or put my counters in the shape of a tens frame. I have 5 on the top and 5 on the bottom, or going towards 5 on the bottom. This makes it really easy for me to see how many I have in relation to 10 without having to count them all. So it helps me kind of subitize it and recognize how many is there without having to count each one. You don't have to do that, but it's a really nice tip that'll help it make it easier for you. Another thing that you can do is use a part-whole box with an equation. And so let's look at our part-whole box first. Again, you're going to look at your key numbers. So you know that part of the friends that are coming is 4. So you would put 4 in the box. Then you know that the other part that's coming is 5. So one group of friends that said they can come first is the 4, and then 5 more is your other part. So that goes in the other box. Now when we've talked about part-whole boxes, we know that those 2 parts, I put them together or add them to get to the whole. So I can use that in relation with my equation of 4 plus 5 and know that I'm joining them together or adding, and I know that 4 plus 5 is 9. So my equation can reflect the part-whole box as well. This number by itself in the equation is by itself in the part-whole box. So we just used 3 different ways to show that Mrs. Willoughby is going to have 9 friends at her party. Let's take a look at one more example, and this time I'm going to show you kind of what it would look like to draw that out and what strategies you might use and how it might look for you. So this example says, there were 3 basketballs to play with on the playground. Mrs. Crumb bought 4 more. How many balls are there to play with now? So first I have to think about, what's it asking me? Well, the question is usually at the end, and so this one says, how many balls are there to play with now? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Next, I need to look at the numbers that are shown in the problem, and then look for any keywords. So if we look here, I see that 3 and 4 are important numbers. So I circled them, and it's a really good idea to circle them in your problems when you're working, just so you can recognize that those are the numbers you're working with. I also see that more is in that problem again, so that tells me I'm joining or adding. And I like to underline the keywords just so that it brings my attention to it. So that's what I know what I'm working with. I know I'm working with 3 and 4, and that I have more, so I'm adding. First, let's draw a picture. So I'm going to start by drawing 3 circles. When I draw in math, we're not making really great artistic pictures with our best drawing. We're just doing circles or dots to make it easy for ourselves and to get the answer efficiently. So I start with 3 circles. Then I want to show a difference between my next group, which is 4, the new balls that Mrs. Crum bought. And so I'm going to color them in so that I can tell the difference between my 2 groups. So I draw 4 more and color them in. And now I can see that there are 7 balls altogether because there's 3 first and 4 more that are colored in. I drew 4 more because it said the word more. I know I'm adding to that. I can also use the part-whole box to help myself, or an equation. So let's take a look at the part-whole box. Again, when there are stories about joining, it's going to be the 2 parts that I know. So I know that one group of basketballs that was already there was 3. So I put 3 in that one part. I also know that Mrs. Crum bought 4 more, so that's another part or a group that I'm putting together. So I put the 4 in the other side. I can use that in relation with my equation if I want to. So I know that I can put that addition symbol in between and know that I'm adding those 2 together. So I know that 3 plus 4 is the same as 7. So 7 goes back up in the top. So again, we have 3 different ways: drawing a picture, using a part-whole box, and using an equation to show that there are 7 basketballs to play with all together. So the strategies that we went over today were to draw a picture. Remember, we're just drawing simple pictures with circles or dots, nothing fancy. We can use a part-whole box where we do one part that we know, the other part that we know, and try and put them together to find the whole all together. And finally, we use an equation. We can use one part over here, the other part together, and when we add them, we have the whole over here. So those are 3 ways that you can solve story problems. It's always a good idea as mathematicians to use more than one strategy to check yourself. That way you know that you are for sure right. Let's take a look at your jobs for today. You've got your check-in that you already did to check in with counting to 120. You're watching the video, and so now your target practice or your way of proving that you can do solving story problems about adding is on a Classkick today. So the story problems will be read to you, and there's tools there for you to use within the Classkick. Your must-do after that is to, on Seesaw, you can either write all the numbers using the drawing tool, or you can take a picture of the screen and then fill in the blank of what comes next. So it's 108, 109, 110. Tell me what the next 3 numbers are by writing them and then recording your voice. Finally, you'll do MobyMax Math, a round of that until it says that you are done so you can practice your math facts. As always, you can watch the video as many times as you need, or ask a neighbor for some help, or Mrs. Wilby for help.